Okay guys, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin, and we're going to be asking a bit of a question here as to whether or not we think Bitcoin is going to, continue this upward swing or potentially fall down lower. Is the worst behind us for BTC? Guys, as we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, do go ahead and hit that like button. I really do appreciate it. If you're new, make sure you've subscribed, hit the bell, tap on all notifications, and you won't miss another video. Guys, with that said, let's get into everything Bitcoin and find out what's been going on here, most recently with BTC. This video is sponsored by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app. With Crypto.com, you can buy that fear and sell your cryptocurrency. You can of course earn a juicy return on your investment and spend your cryptocurrency via their debit card. You can track all your transactions, and of course we cannot forget their new NFT platform. So why not check out Crypto.com? Link is down in the description below and you will get a $25 sign up bonus. So to start with, we are here on Bitcoin's chart. This is the weekly chart. It is paired to USDT. Now we are using Binance as the data source as usual, and there's a few things on this weekly chart that are also worth just noting. Obviously we have those 5 impulse waves to the upside. We obviously have correction wave 2, which again, some people may perceive to be a bear market. It's a bear phase. I like to think of this as a correction wave. We obviously have wave 3, which is a nice significant push for Bitcoin, where it obviously went up and set those fantastic highs that we've had. Then we obviously have the wave 4 correction. Again, this is what many people right now are calling the bear market. Again, this is just a correction wave in my opinion. You can call it a bear market within a bull market. You can call it a bear phase. Whatever terminology that you're used to using is perfectly fine. It's a correction wave before we go up to those fantastic highs in, later on this year, towards the beginning of next year, right? So things are looking pretty good there. And we get a good understanding that there's 5 impulse waves to the upside on this weekly chart. And of course, there are waves within waves on various different time levels. So if you drop down into the daily, you'll find lots more waves. If you go down into the 8-hourly, the 4-hourly, or even the hourly, there'll be waves within waves within waves within waves, right? That's the concept. Pretty straightforward. And once you kind of see the patterns, there's a few rules. Once you oblige and kind of adhere to those rules, you'll be able to use this analysis to kind of give you some kind of clarity on what is going on. The other thing that's really important to kind of be aware of on this weekly chart is that stochastic relative strength index right the way down at the bottom here. We've been talking about this for a while now. Obviously, we like to use the relative strength index when there's a trend, and when they're going sideways, that stochastic relative strength index is fantastic to give you a bit of an idea as to what is going on. Now, what's really good about the stochastic relative strength index whilst here on the weekly chart is it gives you a pretty good picture as to how it has been reacting to each of these waves, right? The wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and obviously to come wave 5. Now, obviously, what we have at that low point over here during the end of the 2017-2018 bull run, we had a stochastic relative strength index come down here at 1.3. Okay, pretty low, obviously well oversold. Anything below 20 is oversold, right? So that kick-started wave 1. Wave 1 actually brought all the way up to 99.2 on that stochastic relative strength index over bull. So a correction wave was due, right? And that's where wave 2 came into play. Wave 2 saw the stochastic relative strength index drop all the way down, guys, and it dropped very, very quickly. You can see basically from up here to here, it was basically in the case of a month, it dropped down to 0. It went basically from 100 to 0 in just 1 month, right? But the price didn't move too much. But it is a testament to show you the momentum and the impact that the momentum has on price, right? If people want to sell and they want to deliberately push the price down, then you're going to take advantage of the space that is available to you on that stochastic relative strength index in a really price negative way. If, however, you're not selling so much and the momentum isn't there, but you can shift and drop this stochastic relative strength index without doing too much damage to the price, that's an ideal. So what you actually saw was the major work actually come into play here during the March 2020 crash, right? Which again, this is actually now the low of wave 2. And you can see that we actually dropped down to 7.9 on the stochastic relative strength index during the bottom area there for wave 2. So otherwise, there was a low point just over here that could have sustained it if it wasn't for everything else that was going on in the world. This was unnecessary. We saw the price start to rise up here, right? We can see this slow motion to the upside, basically becoming overbought. Crash came in, brought us right the way back down here, and then we started the wave 3. Now, wave 3 obviously saw us taking advantage of the space a little bit. So we can see come up to this area here, slight pullback, pulling down into out of the overbought area, pushing the price back up again as we go up to these higher areas. We had a little bit of momentum loss just here, pullback all the way to the bottom, took full advantage of this swing to the upside here with all of that momentum there. So again, what you saw now is obviously at the peak of wave 3, overbought up here at a 100, knowing that you have to go down at that point, right? Ultimately, we started to see the momentum shift. It started to actually fall out quite early on. So we actually take a look at where we were at 100 in December, right? So this was before we even started to see those all-time highs get set, but the momentum was already shifting and dropping. So what we actually started to see was the stochastic relative strength index completely bottom out whilst we were going to set those all-time highs, which means we were running out of momentum and we were going to pull down. Now, the good news, guys, is actually we pulled the momentum all the way down on this thing to basically 0.12, and that's allowed us now to see that we are likely to get this push to the upside in a significant way on this wave 5 correction, or the wave 5 push to the upside, right? So ultimately, where we look at where we were at the low points on all of these areas here, and now where we are here, ultimately we're going to be seeing this stochastic relative strength index rise on this weekly chart. It's not going to be quick. It's not going to be small moves either. Week by week, we're going to slowly take things up a little way. So basically, in the last 1 week, we've actually seen this down at 0.12, and it has now risen to 3.7, right? And we've seen a significant candle here on the weekly chart that's now green. If this closes in a really good way on Monday, then or basically by close of play on the weekend, and starting a fresh week with a good position, I think ultimately we should be in a pretty cool position here to see this stochastic continue to grow a little bit more out of this oversold area. Now, obviously, it's going to take time. It's going to take weeks, months. We are thinking, ultimately we're going to have the bull cycle continue. It's going to end towards the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, although the timing is the hardest thing to gauge, and there are going to be some indicators that really help us understand what's going on. Now, with our weekly stochastic and obviously the 5 impulse waves to the upside, the other thing that we have here on the weekly chart is the Fibonacci retracement tool. And that's just up here. This shows us from the all-time high to the correction low of wave 4, and the likelihood is that we'll push up to about 182k on that 4.236 extension level for the Fibonacci. So this is pretty cool. Obviously gives us a bit of an idea as to where things are going. Obviously the 1.618 comes in at 87.5k, 2.618 comes in at 123k, 3.618 comes in at 160k, and then the 4.236 is the $182,000. So there's some interesting price targets associated with our 5th wave here. And obviously this stochastic relative strength index would support exactly what the Fibonacci is also indicating here as well. So let's jump down into our daily view. And this is always good to understand what's going on daily. And here we can obviously see the sideways trading that's been kind of going on. We can obviously see that we have we are an overbought Bitcoin right now on this daily chart, right? We've risen the stochastic from down here on these lower points where it was about 7.5, and now obviously it's up here at 96. So we are going to have to expect a correction to come in shortly, but these corrections could be very, very small corrections that completely shift that momentum out, dropping the relative strength index or the stochastic relative strength index down to being oversold without actually doing too much damage to the price. And we've seen this happen already on the hourly chart several times. And this is really a key and important thing to understand, because what people sometimes are expecting isn't necessarily what is going to happen. And that is exactly what we saw when we actually broke down below 30k. Lots of people were thinking that Bitcoin was then going to go down to 20k. And obviously that was not going to be supported by the stochastic relative strength index on the weekly chart. It's actually telling you the opposite. And that's exactly what we saw. We saw us break 30k. Loads of people went to go ahead and short Bitcoin. And the expectations were, even me to a point was thinking, considering the hourly was already overbought, it should pull back, but instead the institutions dragged the price up, basically liquidating anyone who was shorting. And again, what you saw here was then that momentum completely shifting and changing within the stochastic relative strength index, and it was happening at a pretty rapid pace. So on the weekly chart, obviously we have a pretty decent stochastic. On the daily, we're overbought, right? So we are expecting a bit of a pullback on the daily stochastic relative strength index, but it could happen very quickly without any real effect to the price. And that's going to be one thing that we have to watch out for. The other thing that we want to do here is obviously just make a note of a couple of things. One, as we did on our live stream on Friday, is bring up that relative strength index. This is something that Benjamin Cohen was kind of talking about on one of his videos most recently, is how there was a downward trend between the relative strength index and the momentum, right? But we have had this breakout over here, and we can see this quite clearly. And the breakout most recently happened against this trend. So now we've broken trend. What does this mean? Well, it means that at some point we are likely to pull this down. We'll probably back test this trend line, and we might continue sideways trading or slowly rising over the next several months, pushing this relative strength index to the upside. But as I said previously, the relative strength index is great when there's a trend. If there is no trend, i.e. we're just trading sideways, then that stochastic relative strength index is going to be more sensitive to the price movements and will give you a better indication as to what is likely to happen on those short time moves. And again, I like to just reference that stochastic relative strength index on the weekly because it helps us understand what is going to happen long term as well. But it is also worth noting that we have broken this trend on this relative strength index. So the second that we start seeing a trend moving to the upside here for Bitcoin, then I think we're going to start seeing this relative strength index starting to come back into its own. Okay, so with that done, let's pop that back off and bring back our stochastic. So we know we're overbought here. Let's jump down into our hourly chart, right? And this is where things really get interesting, because what you saw is the initial period over here, right? When we were breaking 30K, we were below 30K, we were testing the 30K line, getting rejected from it. And at the same point of this happening here, we were also overbought here, right? And basically, this was indicating to a lot of people that we should actually drop the price down in order to, continue, right? And also we're up against the resistance line, we're getting rejected from it, we're overbought on the stochastic relative strength index. Let's short Bitcoin. That was the kind of narrative that was going on. But shorting Bitcoin down wasn't really an option, considering the weekly chart wouldn't support it. The daily chart at the time wouldn't support it either. So instead, what you saw was this prolonged overbought situation at the top here, with this momentum completely dropping out all of a sudden just here, right? And again, we reached up quite high. We pulled the price back down into the oversold area, and then we continued to grow. And we were testing this area just over here, as we were basically bouncing the stochastic relative strength index from oversold to basically overbought. And then what you saw most recently whilst we were testing this area is we were down here during our stream, and we were saying that we're more than likely going to be going up to 38K. And that's exactly what you've seen right now, right? Because ultimately, when you're oversold and there's only one place to go, in the same way that you were over here, knowing that you're oversold already on the daily and the weekly, that you were going to push the price up. Now, obviously, we're still oversold at the point here on the weekly chart, not so much on the daily, but the daily was about halfway through, had still momentum to go. And right now, what you saw is this break up to this $34,000 range. Now, considering where we are right now, right at this particular point in time, we are testing that resistance line. And where is our stochastic relative strength index, guys? It is right down there at the bottom on the hourly chart. So that momentum has dropped out, hasn't affected the price. So now we can take that next step and move the price back to the upside. Now, in doing this, obviously we're already overbought on our daily chart, but we're going to continue to be overbought on our daily chart whilst we actually align all of these stochastic relative strength index. I think there's going to be a bit of a rinse repeat. We're going to see that volume and that momentum drop out of our daily chart, correct the stochastic relative strength index in line with our hourly stochastic, and then we're going to continue the motion to the upside. There's some good key areas that we want to be watching out for. And obviously the main one that we're really calling out and have been calling out for a while on the channel is $40,000. Now, $40,000 is a good milestone, but there's one area that's going to be absolutely key to make sure that we do get a reversal and that we do continue the bull run. But that actually comes in at 42K. I do think, however, 40K is going to be the kind of major resistance and the major barrier for us, although it is a bit of a journey to get there right now. My main concern is ultimately a lot of progress is going to be made this weekend, and come Monday, what will happen? With lots of traders currently not working weekends and institutions having a bit of history for manipulating Bitcoin, my expectations are that we'll have a fantastic week. And then basically come Monday, I think we should see a little bit of a correction due for BTC. I don't think it's going to be a major one, but I do think there's going to be correction there. I think some institutions are going to kind of bring the price back down, accumulate a bit more, etc. But one thing is for certain, we've kind of broken out of a couple of trends, and I think this is going to be a good key sign to see what comes next. I think that ultimately, over today and tomorrow, Bitcoin should continue on a pretty positive journey, as with many of those altcoins. But I'm going to be super cautious and really paying attention to the markets late on Sunday, because I think when we go into Monday, as we've seen previously, basically we had fantastic weekends, only get pulled back down on Monday due to institutions and traders forcing Bitcoin back into some channels and below some thresholds. So obviously be mindful, be, clever and, sophisticated about your trades if that is what you're doing. And if you are just hodling and dollar cost averaging, prepare yourself for a little bit more volatility as we continue the push to the upside. I'm super confident that basically as we enter or finish off Q3, go into Q4, and obviously go into the next year, I think Bitcoin's going to be at some phenomenal high values. And hopefully you haven't actually been shaken out, and hopefully you've been paying attention to the channel in terms of how bullish we've been, considering the technical information that's readily available to us. And ultimately, I think that we are going to be in for a fantastic end of the year. And obviously on the channel, we're super stoked and super excited about the bear market that is due as well, because that is going to really lead in to accumulating some very significant positions for the 2025 bull run, which will set, again, even higher price expectations on many of your favorite cryptos. Guys, if you have found this video useful and informative, then do go ahead and hit that like button. I really do appreciate it. If you're new, make sure you've subscribed, hit the bell, tap on all notifications, and you won't miss a single thing. Guys, with this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.